Hello and welcome back. In the 1960s, 70s and 80s, bands used to record their albums in their country of origins. So lacquers used to be cut there and the master tape remained in the vaults of the companies. If the album was successful elsewhere, the rule of thumb was sending a one-to-one copy tape to the other country to make their own masterings and pressing. That was the case in 99% of the times. But sometimes an album was so successful that other countries didn't have the time to cope with the demand. So they asked the recording companies for the stampers to make the pressings straight away. We're going to look today, we're going to go through very well-known albums that use the original stampers, the country of origin first pressings for their own country releases. And the good thing about this is that you get the same sound and for a cheaper price. So let's get into it. And before we start, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and becoming part of our family. Fleetwood Mac, Rumours. Rumours was, as you know, a blockbuster, one of the widest selling albums all over the world. The previous album was very successful, but this one absolutely made it for them. Right? It's still remembered to this day. The album was mastered by Ken Perry, an American engineer. And there was such a huge demand that the poor guy had to work 24/7 to cope with the demand and send stampers all over the US. But to make things even worse, the record was very, very popular elsewhere, over the seas and even in Japan. And foreign companies did not have the time to cope with the demand, asking for a tape copy, make their own mastering and make their own pressing. So they asked for the stamper. So stampers were flown over from the States, and in countries like Germany and Japan, you've got the same stampers, but for a different price. Also, the German pressings and the Japanese pressings are made on better and quieter vinyl. So if you get one of these copies, you might even improve on the American one and certainly save some money. This one was so cheap, dirt cheap, that I even bought 2 copies. Right? Careful, because there's a German first pressing that's made for the copy tape, right, from the master tapes. Just check on these cogs, the ran out groove, the matrices for the KP, the Ken Perry, the original US mastering. After Thick as a Brick and Passion Play, Ian Anderson had a hard time with the press. Things didn't go very well for the band, and the next album was not so successful. But some people, like me, they still enjoyed it. I'm talking, of course, about War Child. The album was meant to be like a stage opera, but Ian Anderson didn't get the money to make it come true, so they just recorded the songs. The first pressing in England was done by George Peckham, Porky, and the sound of this album is phenomenal. For some reason, which I don't know, stampers were sent over to Germany in the late 70s. I'm talking about 77, 78. So if you check carefully, mid 70s to late 70s German pressings use the same stamper as the original UK. You can buy them from dirt cheap, save a lot of money, and have the original sound instead. As the case with Fleetwood Mac, with Rumours, this was so obvious that I even had a spare copy, right? Another German pressing from the late 70s. Uh, Genesis' first album, from Genesis to Revelation, hardly sold, mainly because it was put on the religious bins in record shops, and nobody really paid attention to the band. That first album that was issued both in mono and stereo goes for big bucks nowadays just because of the collective factor, right? But we didn't have those recordings till 1976 when Decca decided to release a collection of band's first albums. The collection was done in England, but the stampers were sent elsewhere to make their own copies. So the UK pressing shares the same matrices numbers than the rest of the countries, than the rest of the European countries. The collection had a different name in each country, but the record cover, and I'm going to show you, they're all very similar. For instance, this is the Spanish pressing, and the UK pressing is pink, if memory serves, and also the French pressing. The important thing here is that all of them use the English stamper, right? So if you're going to get an affordable copy of From Genesis to Revelation, you can get one of these in any European country, dirt cheap, and you get the same sound, or even better, because this one has got both mono and stereo of some of the songs. Let's turn back time now and go to 1983. Dire Straits were a very popular band, but they became superstars after Alchemy and, of course, Brothers in Arms. Their live album, Alchemy, was recorded in the UK by Sound Clinic. Now, these mastering engineers share their work with the rest of the European countries. So, with very tiny differences, you're going to get the same sound. All of them sound fantastic. The UK pressing, the German pressing, the Italian pressing, any of them, right? There's also very good sounding US pressing that, if memory serves, was done by Mr. Robert Luckley. Correct me if I'm mistaken here, which has a great reputation. So if you're in the States, go after that one. Elsewhere, you don't need to pay premium for a UK first pressing because other European pressing sound as good as this one, in my opinion, of course. Now, a similar case to Jethro Tull's War Child was Deep Purple's Made in Japan. This album was mixed and mastered in the UK and by George Peckham as well. It was hugely demanded, right? And it became so popular that then again, countries didn't have the time to cope with the sales, so they asked for the stampers, and Apple Studios decided to send them over. So if you get a German pressing, you're going to get the same stampers that the UK pressing, and absolutely for a fraction of the price. And as it was the case in Fleetwood Mac Rumours, it's quite a vinyl, thick and quite vinyl, right? So I strongly advise you to get one of these copies. Now we're going to talk about CBS, right? The great American label. CBS was huge, right? Especially in the late 60s and 70s, and they had factories all over the place. Not only in the States, they had factories in Europe, Asia, and the records are reputed to be of very good quality. I won't challenge that. The good thing about CBS is that sometimes they use their own American engineers in foreign plants to cut the lacquers or to use the stampers to press some records. Sometimes they did it from the master tape, a copy of the master tape, but sometimes they asked the States to send them the real stamper and start pressing records. The good thing about that is that most artists working for CBS at the time are likely to have a foreign copy using the US stampers. Just to give you an example, Bob Dylan, Street Legal. This is Spanish pressing from 1978 with the US stampers. Be careful because some countries use their own stampers as well as the American stampers. So check on these stocks, and if you're this side of the pond, you can get CBS artist albums for a fraction of the price. You only have to check. They're all over the place. Now, one that surprised me, that happily surprised me, was Stevie Wonder, Talking Book. I love this album, like I suppose most of you do. And I used to have a 1980s copy of these albums. They sounded okay, but nothing to write home about. I talked about these with one of you subscribers, and they pointed me to the Dutch pressings and asked me to check the matrices on the Dutch pressings. And what I found was amazing. It was that Tamla flew over the original pressings, the original stampers, to the Netherlands. And during the 1970s, most talking books in the Netherlands were cut from the original US stampers. Needless to say, they're going to cost a fraction of the price. An original US 1972 US copy is going to set you back quite some money. But the Dutch presents are all over the place on very good vinyl, very good sounding, and again, for a fraction of the price. Now, this one is huge. The Rolling Stones. I think I've shown you this album before. I'm talking about Sticky Fingers. This is a German pressing that was not made from the original stampers. The album was recorded at TML, and the mastering engineer was Douglas Sachs in the States. That is one, I've got a copy over there, that is one of the best sounding albums I have. Right? Not only one of the best Stones albums, but one of the best sounders I have. Luckily, Douglas Sachs stampers were flown over to Germany, so if you check carefully on German first pressings, you'll find Douglas Sachs masterings on German vinyl. So if you're in the States, look for the Douglas Sachs, but elsewhere, try the German copy. It's going to be cheaper and on very good vinyl. Queen, Night at the Opera. Queen became hugely popular with Bohemian Rhapsody and the Beatles album. There are many Queen fans out there looking for a first pressing, for a UK first pressing of these albums, mainly for the sound. Now, an ear mint copy of this album is going to cost an arm and a leg. But after doing my homework and my research, I found out that the Swedish don't ask me why, got the UK stampers, so they made their own pressings from the original UK stampers. Needless to say that the Swedish pressings are much, much cheaper than the UK original ones. So you're desperate to find a UK first pressing or a Swedish first pressing, just try the latter. You can get, this one is practically mint. Right, and you can find near mint copies. Again, check the matrices, check the run-out grooves, and get the original pressing. And as always, best for last, this is one everybody knows, but just in case there are newbies over there, uh, the Beatles. Um, this is Sergeant Pepper stereo. The 1967 -1 was obviously made at Abbey Road Studios, and copy tapes were sent as well. But luckily, the Northern European countries, especially Denmark, and sometimes Sweden or Finland, got the original stampers from Abbey Road. So if you get this is Danish present, and if you check the matrices, you'll see YEX-1, YEX-1, which is obviously the matrices for the original UK first pressing. With the Danish, you get exactly the same sound, and the only difference, you get the inserts, and the only difference, of course, is the label. Right? This is, I'm going to show you how the Danish label looks. And I strongly advise you to get a copy. There are near mint copies around, and you get the original UK stereo for a fraction of the price. Okay, so some were the examples. Please let me know in your comments if you know other albums that took the same route. And that's all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. Take care.